Yo, what's up, guys? King Fine here, bringing you for the second match of the first week of the DPL Discord Premier League. If you didn't watch the first match, make sure you do that. There will be a playlist for sure. I will be compiling all of the battles into one playlist so you can watch them all at once if you haven't watched any of them, or they're just all together if you want to watch them. With that being said, we have our UU player, Elk. I'm just going to call him Elk. ALK, Elk. Versus Faded Love. And looking at the teams right now, I really like Elk's team with his Mega Sharpedo, probably the normal Psychic Fangs, Crunch, and probably I feel like it could be Ice Fang, but I don't think it would be for UU. Maybe it's Earthquake. I don't feel like it's Stab Water because I don't feel like it's that great in UU. Anyway, there's also Latias, which is probably his default. Actually, I feel like that's Choice Scarf Latias with Rapid Spin Tentacruel. And then probably SD Scizor with Screens Klefki. Actually, that looks like a little bit of Hazard Stack to me, with Stealth Rock, Capoudon, Spikes, Klefki, and Toxic Spikes, Tentacruel. So, with that being said, I do feel like I haven't watched the battle, so this is all just me thinking, which, if I'm thinking about my teammates, I probably should look at his opponents, which I feel like his defogger is definitely going to be Rotom. So he's probably going to be running, looking at the team, I feel like it'd be more apt to be a Z-move Latias than a Scarf Latias, because he really doesn't have a solid Z-mover, which I just realized for Ox team too, so that could be a Z Latias as well. And that's probably going to be Life Orb Regenerator, Minshao with Z-move Latias, probably Stallbreaker, Togekiss with probably Rock's Lead, Steelix, and Defog Rotom, and Bulky Jellicent. But anyway, let's just hop into the match and see what goes on. He does leave Rotom predicting the Klefki lead, and he just goes for a straight up Toxic, which I feel pretty much tells me that he isn't the screen setter as we see leftover. So he's really, I'm pretty sure that he's not. He goes for Magnet Rise, probably predicting the EQ, which is very nice. He's definitely going to be able to throw up some spikes here if he wants them, which is going to definitely put in some pressure, but not a whole lot, because he only has 3 things that are going to be able to touch the ground. So I guess it doesn't really put as much pressure as I was thinking. And he goes into Powdon to get up his rocks, which is going to be nice because it hurts it hurts everything for a little bit. With Spikes, it kind of hurts everything very nicely. Doing 12% to Steelix, or 13, 14, probably like 15% to Steelix, 18% to Minshao, because Stealth Rock would be 6%, Spike 12%, as his opponent's probably just going to defog here, as he doesn't want to deal with all that damage. And he just goes for a defog like I thought, and we get to see what kind of Latias he's running here if he so desires to do something here. I still feel like it's Choice Scarf Latias, but it could definitely be Z. And he goes straight into Klefki here, which is a good play. I feel like he's just going to throw up a Spike. He might go for a Toxic, because getting some residual on this not Latias, the Togekiss could be nice. But he just goes for the Spike. Probably going into Hippowdon here, predicting the Heavy Slam or Earthquake or whatever. Or he could go for a Stealth Rock. And he makes a play into Jellicent, which is a very nice read for Faded. Putting a lot of pressure on Elk for there, or right there. And I feel like he could probably still go for a Stealth Rock there, because I feel like he's just going to go Willow or Toxic or something. As he goes into Tentacruel, probably able to get up his Toxic toxic spikes if he has it. If not, just throwing off a toxic on this thing. It could be very nice, as he is running toxic spikes like I was expecting. And he's running haze. That's going to put Ulk in a little bit of a bad position there. I don't know what he's going to do here. Maybe go out. He goes into Klefki, and he goes for another Hex. I feel like he's just going to throw up another layer of spike as he goes into Rotom, because his opponent definitely is going to want to go out into his Rotom to get rid of it. And he goes for Taunt. So I feel like Jellicent's going to go Will-O-Wisp here. So maybe Alt goes into his Tentacruel or he just stays in with Klefki. That makes sense because he doesn't really need to worry about this thing getting burnt. He just goes for a Play Rough, which makes sense. I feel like he could probably go out and do a Sharpedo to threaten this thing out because the Hex is pretty obvious. But if his Sharpedo gets burnt, it's going to be very bad for him. And he just goes for another Play Rough to get some damage off. He's probably just going to sack Klefki at this point, which is going to suck because he can't get his spikes up anymore. And he does make the Sharpedo play a turn later than I thought, but makes sense. He's probably just going to go for... He actually might double here. Yeah, he goes into Klefki, which makes sense, as his opponent goes into Togekiss. If I was his opponent, I would go like straight into Steelix because I don't want that thing getting toxic. Yeah, that makes sense too. I forgot that was already toxic. But with him going into Rotom, he's just going for a defog, so Klefki can just Play Rough. That makes sense. So that was a smart play by Ulk. He can just go for another spike here. And with the Rotom taking the toxic damage, it's going to put him really, really low. And it's going to be really annoying for him later in the game to get these spikes and rocks off the field. As I'm pretty sure he's just going to go Hippo here. He might go into his Rotom. Nope. I feel like going hard Rotom there would be the smarter play, as the Hippowdon can just start going for Whirlwinds. And if he's Ipapa Berry. Okay, that explains why we didn't see the leftovers. And he goes into Togekiss, he gets forced out into Togekiss. And he's also leftovers. So he goes for Air Slash. So I feel like this is going to take a few, because he's just going to slack off and heal back up. I feel like this is just going to go on for a few turns before someone switches out. As he goes for a Nasty Plot. So I wonder if he goes for a Whirlwind here. As he does go for a Whirlwind. And he brings out the Minshao. Which the Minshao should just U-turn here, as he kind of needs the Minshao. I mean, he doesn't really need the Minshao. It doesn't really solo something on Ulk's team. So I guess he didn't need to, but having it is going to be very nice, I feel, later in the game. And he just goes for a defog, which makes sense because he doesn't want the Rock Splush spike up. Latias is probably just going to go for he goes into Hippo, which makes sense, as his opponent goes for a Volt Switch, which means he's taking more toxic damage and sand damage, which is going to bring him really, really low, to the point where it can't come in on anything. He just goes for a Leaf Storm, which makes sense, and Ulk makes the smart play to go for Latias, which I do like that play. And his Rotom goes down, which means he no longer has a defogger, but it also means that, or it doesn't mean anything, but he's Trick Scarf, and his opponent's probably going to go for a Nasty Plot, as he does go for the Nasty Plot, which really puts Faded in the back. It kind of screws with his momentum there. That's going to be a rough place for Faded, But looking at the team matchup right now, I still feel like this Mega Steelix is going to be an issue for Alk. He definitely needs to start chipping it down soon because it's going to be able to wall if Sharpedo is the standard set for UU. And if Tentacool can't switch in on it, and it's just going to be very annoying for Alk if he can find a way to chip at it. And his opponent stays in with his Minchow, and he probably just goes for an Earth. Oh, he goes for Whirlwind, getting the Togekiss back out. And the Togekiss is definitely just going to start spamming Air Slash, as he probably slacks off or flinches. I feel like this might take a couple turns again, because, yeah. And he misses the Air Slash, which is very nice because that means he has a full HP Hippowdon for whatever comes in, which is the Minchow. And I feel like he's just going to go for an Earthquake as last time he just stayed in. As he does go for an Earthquake, and it just barely misses out on the Oko. He's probably just going to start spamming Slack off until a crit or a miss happens, which really determine who has the upper hand there. As he just keeps landing, no crits, just straight up 1-for-1. I think they have the same amount of PP. Oh, and he misses the high jump kick. The 90% accuracy finally fails as he goes for a slack off there. And he brings out his Latias, which I still feel like it. Yep, it's definitely going to be Z. I kind of wonder which Z move it is, though. If it's going to be Z Draco, Z Thunder, Z Psyshock, or Z Psychic per se. As he just goes back for his Air Slash flinches. So I'm just going to skip a few turns because I feel like it's going to take a few turns. Oh, he just goes straight for the Whirlwind. Jellicent comes out as he makes the play for a taunt, which I think that's a pretty smart play as Tentacool can't get up his Toxic Spikes here. And it's probably forced to switch out because it's probably going to run Toxic Spikes, Rapid Spin, Scald, and probably, I don't know what its last move would be. Maybe Haze, maybe Sludge Bomb. I don't know for sure. And that Togekiss is getting really low. So there's no reason for Latias to predict, which that makes a lot of sense to me. I feel like he just goes back into Powdon. Oh, I understand that play. He's probably just sacking Tentacool so he can go hard or go into the Hippowdon and then switch in. So he can get the slack off. That's funny. I'll just go Scizor and gets the Bullet Punch off, which makes more sense. Which kind of makes me wonder if he's Choice Banded instead of SD. But he has no other real sweepers if he is Choice Banded. So I definitely feel like he's Swords Dance for the fact that he doesn't have any other sweepers. Because if you look at his opponent's team, he has a Nasty Blot Togekiss as a sweeper. So I do feel like that's still a Swords Dance sweeper. But of course I may be wrong and all that. Because I don't know his team on the top of my head. Hippowdon probably is going to go for Slack Off. Okay. I was thinking Whirlwind, but Slack Off makes sense too. But his opponent makes the play for a taunt, which is a smart play. Pretty logical play, but a smart play out of that. His opponent just goes for recovery on his EQ because that's the only thing he can go for. I definitely feel like this is really bad for Alk, unless if he's running a mixed Sharpedo with Hydro Pump or Scald, or if he's running Stab Water on his Sharpedo in general. But I don't feel like he is because he hasn't applied the pressure with it yet. Excuse me. But if he does go hard into his Sharpedo, you can kind of assume that it's going to be something in that realm. But his Hippowdon just goes down here. I feel like Sharpedo's to switch in here no matter what. The problem is he can't just straight up Mega Evolve because Latias outspeeds it. He does go into his Steelix as he goes for the Crunch. and it only does 19%, which probably means that it only does like 29% with the whatchamacallit, the strong jaw. So he goes for goes hard scissor, and he gets the crit on the earthquake, which it kind of sucks. But the scissor just goes for a roost, which makes sense. What does this thing do? It goes for a Z move. Gigavolt Havoc, and it kills. I'm kind of curious if that mattered or not, because if he didn't crit with the EQ, it would have been nearly at full. And he said it was Fat Scizor, which makes sense because that's one of the standard SD scissors. So if he goes Scizor here, Bulky Swords Dance versus a Latias. Let's go for this offensive. I'm just gonna go Calm Mind here. It's probably Thunder. Come on. Thunder. A Z Thunder into that does 53 to 63%, which did 59%. So not only, well, he's probably not running special defense in it. So let's take that out. He's probably Impish doesn't change it, so just per se. So it does 62 to 74. So I do feel like that earthquake mattered in the way of he could probably get the Swords Dance off if he chose to go for Swords Dance, or he could have just gone for the Roost, put himself back into a healthy position, and would have put Faded Love in a very bad position. But anyway, at this point, I'm kind of curious what happens. I don't know what his scissor set, so it might not even matter. But he goes for a crunch, taking that thing out. It all comes down to what kind of set this Sharpedo is. If he's running Stab Water, he has a chance, but because he keeps switching it out, I don't feel like it is. And there's no reason for Faded to predict, because it could just lose him the game if he predicted that. And he just goes for a Heavy Slam, taking it out. And as I keep saying, it all comes down to if this Sharpedo has a Stab Water move. And I'm pretty sure it doesn't. And he Mega Evolves and goes for an Earthquake. It doesn't take it out, and the Mega Steelix does take it out. So that was a very intense game. A lot of pressure the whole game. I feel like Faded Love was able to put in a lot of pressure and put Alk in a bad position. But after that crit on Scizor, I feel like it put Alk really behind the back wheel. He could have made plays to still pull it out, but it put him really far behind, and it looked to me that he just couldn't do anything afterwards. So that was the second match, and that would mean that us versus the Oxford Talonflames, that would put us 1-1, and there's 10 matches. So with 2 matches done, we are tied. Hopefully the Arceus' Wish is able to pull the next W and get us the lead. So with that being said, this is King Passwine, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.